I woke up this morning, everything was weird. Mom and Dad were shrinking, and my sister grew a beard. So I rode down to the corner to see what I could spy, only to discover my bicycle could fly.
Ghosts and paranormal activity are experienced across the globe on a daily basis.
I think there's a lot of just residual energy.
Spirits unearthed by explosive history, cultural warfare, human tragedy.
But there's definitely something intelligent that will interact with you. Yeah, we used to give tours up here once a week. There has been times where you're kind of drawn to an area and you're like, maybe we should go down the hall, and you go down there and all of a sudden activity starts picking up.
That's okay.
Some of us kind of pick it up, but then they shut it down.
So with the paranormal side, it was just something in this area not really talked about, not really spoken, only focusing on the good.
From stricken men with helpless, dependent families, from mothers too sick to be mothers.
It was in operation for 117 years.
Unfortunate young men and women in every walk of life.
The first I've heard of a paranormal encounter, it was a treatment center for like alcoholism and stuff in the 80s, along with like a group home and other things. These rooms get really small. Like some of these you could only fit a twin-size bed in. So people would get hauled up here, like instead of at a drunk tank, you know, like by the jail or something, they'd be dropped off at the asylum. And I had worked with a person whose family member had been up here, and whether it was just staying in an asylum to dry out or whether there was actually something paranormal going on, he ended up calling his mom in the middle of the night crying, saying he was hearing things in his room and could you come get me? Some of the windows in the rooms are circles, and you can see years of abuse on the doors. A lot of that has a really complicated history, and at the same time, you know, that's all they knew, and they probably didn't intend on causing pain to people, but it inevitably happened. I mean, some accidents happened even with treatment here. But on the flip side, I've also met residents who were here in the 80s, and they said it was the best years of their lives, like living here.
From their gingerbread towers to their jigsaw doorways, early mental hospitals were solidly built custodial institutions.
This area was set up on a hill, so there was a lot of fresh air, along with like good nutrition and stuff as part of the treatment for mental illness back then.
Yep.
Giant otter? No, what is that?
Fergus Falls, Minnesota. We are running around in the dark in places that we don't always know about. Our paranormal team started by a news article out of Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, Midwest Paranormal Files, where he would go around and write articles about paranormal encounters throughout the area. And one day he decided to form a group. We've been part of the group ever since.
It was pitch black up here most of the time because there was no streetlights until a few years back. I've never felt threatened by anyway. Oh my gosh.
Hit me up. I don't know exactly what we saw that night.
I've never had any bad experiences. I don't know. We've definitely had people on tours that will get kind of creeped out and have to be walked out of the building. It definitely has a personality. But there's been occasions where we will be on an investigation and we'll see balls of light traveling through a hallway or traveling through a door with our own eyes. And not always does the camera catch it, but that's what we refer to as orbs. Because once we saw inside the building, there was no light coming through that window from the outside if there was a person inside.
The nice classic 50s square windows. I'd like to chalk it up to actually seeing a real orb in person.
You would slide down and there was a spiral slide that came all the way down and then you would come out that door at the end.
If I fit, I'd do it.
There's been radio stations that have reported things that just weren't true, and really we have a hard time with that. But we were in here once when a radio station came in and they found a big electrical panel in the basement and said, this was where they electrocuted the people. And I was like, no.
That being said, there have been some reports at different locations of instances going on during the day.
Is actual balls of light, like almost like manifesting of energy of some sort. If somebody wasn't in their right frame of mind during their lifetimes, what's to say they were still in the right frame of mind after they passed on? Do they know how to move on or where they are or what's going on? Yeah, so if you go inside, there's a central hallway that goes all the way throughout, and then there's a lot of tiny rooms. And as I'm deciding to walk actually through this hallway where it's curved here, I heard what sounded like a woman passing me and just like an everyday hello. And I was, hello. But just like it was an everyday occurrence, like there was somebody in the hospital working or staff, it was just hello. I mean, they will interact with you, but there's also a lot of random, like we've caught EVPs of help. And we've caught EVPs, get me out of here.
Did that say shush?
Yeah.
Correct. You can even hear it echoing on the recorder.
Yeah. We were the first ones in. We're leading into West Detached. This was an area that was chemical dependency for a while. Yep. We had the keys. We were allowed to go throughout the whole building. But there were definitely nights where they were messing with us. Oh my gosh. Knocking and closing doors. So we would go down there and then all of a sudden it's back where we were. Oh my gosh. They would just, I think, enjoy watching us run around. It was amazing. We're more respectful about places like this than we see some people are demanding activity, demanding you do things for us. That's not how you go about that. Look at all these windows. I mean, he kind of pushed me into the ghost hunting, and then I kind of pushed him into, guess what, we're doing security in an asylum without asking him. So he's like, okay. It's a little crazy. Some nights on security, a lot of windows were broken out when we first started coming out here, and I would put the recorder in the window, and then we would do our rounds at night, and then I would grab the recorder. I could hear doors opening and closing, and I could hear, but we never saw doors opening and closing, we would only hear them. There's so many theories about hauntings. Like, is it a time slip? Are we ghosts to them? There's so many things that it could possibly be. But I would love to go back in time to see this property in full bore. The most people had ever housed at once was 2,040 or so. So those were residents, never mind staff. So it was quite the community. And I just saw this monstrosity sitting up here on the hill, and I'm like, what is this place?
So we would volunteer. Want to stand by me? Make it look cool. We would volunteer and do security out here at night. And basically what that meant is we would hang out outside and see if there was anybody trying to break into the building. Any sort of suspicious activity. If we saw anything like that, then we would call the cops.
This is one of the swings that one of the locals told me always was rumored to swing on its own at night. They said you would drive up here at night and see it swinging by itself.
One night, we kept seeing these lights on the side of the building. And it just kept happening and happening. And we were wondering, is that flashlights? Because it didn't quite look like a normal flashlight, like a normal lamp. And being paranormal investigators as we are, we had some of our tools with us. One of the tools that we use is a laser grid that could shine out many dots to create a matrix pattern, so you could see if anything breaks the beam of light, to see if there's any shadows, any entities like that. So I shined it on the building where we were seeing the lights. And yep, I see the lights right there, shining the laser. The person up at the building could not see the lights. And that kept happening, and eventually we did call the police on the non-emergency number. They came over, looked through the outside, and then they went on the inside as well. So I went inside, and the window that I saw the lights was actually blocked from the outside, meaning we could not actually see inside the building from the outside.
But that was in this section. If there's still lingering spirits, hope to find some comfort for them. And it was all over from there. Once I got in the building, took a tour, I was like, whatever I can do, let me do it. I will fight tooth and nail to keep this place standing. We've sat on that swing many times and swing. Trust each other.
Let's start that one over.
Go ahead and you can move on. I'm sure there's no reason for you to be staying here anymore.
Trust is the key to good relationships, in our opinion.
We don't question each other, we just go with it. Yeah, we just tried to talk to them because I'm imagining that they don't get attention anymore, seeing as how the building's been sitting empty for so long.
It sounds so weird.
Who knows if they are stuck here or if they are just passing through.
And that's one of the things with the asylum. Like growing up, you would hear stories like, oh, you need to behave, otherwise we're going to drop you off in Fergus Falls.
Very common.
That sort of thing.
A lot of people would rather just see it tore down. And then the other section is like, no, somebody has to save it. There's so much that could be done with it. But depends which side of the aisle you're on, the stories you'll hear.
In an old antique shop, there are fond memories.
If you heard it or not, when I was telling you about the faces, before we got the store, at night, just before I go to sleep, I get all these faces just coming at me, very gently. Nobody's scary. And somebody said, hello. And it was a lady's voice. I'm like, excuse me. I feel like we're so connected. Do you?
Yes.
Yes.
It's only natural that a fun tour of Florida should start in St. Augustine, founded in the year 1513 by the Spanish explorer Ponce de Leon.
So keep in mind that you may even have been alive during that time.
Now, this is the Fountain of Youth Water. It's always a pleasure to give my fellow countrymen a boost.
Oh.
This could be the reason why a lot of people are called to a divine timing.
I feel rather ashamed of myself in doing so, being that you already look so young.
They, on a certain level, have agreed to come unleash something. To open it up, open Pandora's box. Because you may have been a witness or a part of it.
I think that so much has happened in this area that it'll never be comfortable for me. I can't put my finger on it.
Oldest street in America.
Wow.
Until I believe it was 23, it was called the Street of the Royal Military Hospital, Hospital Street. And then they renamed it to Avalise Street, named after Pedro Menendez de Avalise, the founder of the city.
Old Don Toledo could never have imagined such modern transportation at his doorstep.
But I don't know. I choose to think it's the building. In the beginning, I'm Native American, so I grew up in it, and it's pretty natural. First of all, I don't do well with paranormal teams who are going to tell me how to investigate when I don't need anything. Do you know what I mean? I counseled a group of teenagers who thought it was fun to have a Ouija board, and that's all I had to hear in here. And I'm like, come here. And we go sit down. But It's just amazing to me. And we saw the store and immediately knew we wanted to come in.
Kind of called your name, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you were we call this a strand in synchronicities, where you're actually riding a set of synchronicities to get where you're supposed to be.
So I'm standing on the other side of the street when it was legal to smoke outside. Shh. Oh, did I say that?
Back in the day.
Cut. I loved looking in that window because it had old tool in there, and you could just see all kinds of things in there. But all of a sudden I'm like, what the heck is that? So I walk across the street. Mind you, I have no access. So I go get the Windex and I spray the window and I'm scrubbing it.
So this is from outside.
Yep. And it's still there.
It's on the inside.
You see it? There's his ear. There's his other ear. There's his little round face with one eye and a nose. What is it with the rabbit?
And that's exactly how
What is it with the rabbit?
an aspiration would try and get through to you.
When we first moved in, like I said, the children beckoned me from the red train to get off the red train and come here. It was a 12-year quest to get the building, and now I've been here for 8 years. I would see things and feel things, and I just wanted somebody to validate me. Am I crazy? Am I seeing things?
Right.
What is this? What do I feel? Why do I cry?
I feel like you're in the middle of an isolation.
Yes.
And you're what I call a highly sensitive person.
You're touching me.
Your psychic senses are developing, but you don't know what to do with it.
Right. Exactly.
That's their way of saying we're here.
There's more.
And the clock chimes, just as she says, there's more. I don't know if you could hear that, but it was profoundly timed, just as if they were trying to make sure that we're hearing the message.
Okay. I was so excited about the activity in here. I was just desperately looking for somebody to come in here and help me. That was, And one of the reasons I came to St. Augustine was ghost hunters going to the lighthouse. Otherwise, we used to cruise twice a year, and that gets so boring after a while. Well, everything looks alike.
What's that?
Do you want the light on in there? This is where you're going.
This is where I'm going. Okay, so this is where we have the most activity?
No, I would say yes, we get a lot.
So this is what we would call a portal or a vortex, because it still holds the energy. The energy in this hasn't changed, and you may get what they call a ghost imprint here. In my experience, usually we would actually ask her name. Is that okay? Have you ever received a name?
I receive all kinds of names. There's lots of children's spirits here, but I don't know that.
Has there ever been an Annabelle show up in your name world?
No.
Because I'm getting an Annabelle. Does that resonate in your heart when I say that? So I feel like it's an Annabelle. I think you're right on the age, right around 3 or 4 years old, and I feel like it was someone coming that she knew, someone that she felt, and I don't know that she made it much farther than right here.
The only thing I've ever seen was her, felt was her.
Well, when you said multiple children, the first thing I received intuitively is that this was the room. And so you said it was an alley, but I think at the time it was a room just like this, and this was the room.
Earlier, Denise, before you showed up, there was a tour that was coming in, and Ryan and I were sitting outside, and we didn't want to interfere, didn't want to say anything, but they were talking about a spirit named Timmy.
Yes, there's a little boy, Timmy, up front. Okay. He's the one that actually moves the flashlight.
Yeah, I suggested that to her, but
I didn't remember the story of Timmy.
Hey, Tim, are you in here? Well, let's just give it some time. Let's just talk.
Flashlights, on and off, that happens a lot with a lot of people.
Flashlight coming on and going off very, very subtly. See it?
We've seen the flashlight where it'll roll back and forth. You tell him, would you move the flashlight? And he moves it back and forth.
So does anybody else want to show us anything?
Timmy, can you roll it again? You just do back and forth like you were doing.
That was amazing.
But I also heard I'm not dead.
So let's just talk about this. So what I was feeling was that it was cold. It was cold.
We acknowledge the floors are old. So we ask people not to bounce around on the floor because we don't want it to be something false.
You just want to be acknowledged. You have no intention of leaving. You like it here. Okay.
When you're around him, do you feel kind of like a guardian angel type?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And his words to me were, "Get out of my tulips, Denise." And I'm like, what? There you go. Can you roll it right off that counter? Can you do that for us? Oh. Whoa. And that was hard for me, sorry.
That's okay.
And all of a sudden, this banging, horrible noise came from that door. What? Who's in there? Who's in there? Blah, 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 blah. So I turned around to go out, and we hear this horrendous crash. I don't know if it's because of the room, the acoustics, or whatever, but it was horribly loud. So naturally, I'm the first one out. I looked up at my husband, and I'm like, "Didn't you hear this? Didn't you see this?" And he said, not only did he hear it, stuff flew off the counter all the way in the front of the store.
Right around the front counter.
So show us if you actually belong to the building.
I just played with my hair.
Yeah, I heard something from the...
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
Sherry...
while you were saying that, I felt my heart race.
Did you?
Like something's... It feels like it's coming from that side.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, party's over there. What would you like us to know over here?
coming on.
And all of a sudden the energy shifted, and that's when the light came on. So I witness you, we feel you. So if you feel it really profoundly, like one of the reasons I feel so strongly about this particular street and area is because I feel like I've walked it before. So do you want to play? Do we like the bears? Huh. Did you live upstairs and work here? You lived upstairs. You just lived here. Were you a boarder? Something like a child? I had a child. Was that what it said? I had a child?
Happy?
Happy. It's okay.
It's okay if
Be
we
at
know this.
peace.
We're not gonna, this is...
Be at peace. What we did identify was a child. We came with the name Annabelle, we think, or something close to that, and her in sheer terror. So you're probably receiving the feelings that she left as an imprint.
Right
there.
It's like that frustration, confusion, anger, just a barrage of emotions.
In an old antique shop where the town folks come to buy.
Antiques, Uniques, and Collectibles.
Hi, thank you. This has been a very interesting evening.
Gold can never buy.
There you go, guys.
I always try to envision what it would have been like living before cars, in that, because my favorite time in history is pre and post Civil War, and just I try to imagine what it would have been like traveling places, because you wouldn't have the car, and how would you get somewhere if you were traveling?
No. Cowboys weren't there. That's post-cowboys. And think about it. Are you going to want to run cattle over the desert? No. What we had there were miners.
Close to over like 150 degrees in those mines as well.
Yeah. The first time I was in Goldfield was in February and it was snowing. And the hotel felt very heavy, and the high school did too. We've never actually made it to Goldfield as a family. According to the 2010 census, there was more people buried in the cemetery than there are residents in the town.
1848 to 1920.
You know, it's definitely a fun thing to do all together as a family.
It looks like it. Yeah, it looks like it's 28. Yeah, he's old.
He likes exploring and learning about history.
We have a spirit box and some audio recorders, so we'll use some of those to see if we get any responses.
And with the spirit box, what it does is it does a reverse sweep over AM stations. And if you pick up an actual full sentence because of the speed it goes, it's generally not picking up radio stations because you switch so fast. Bee or fly? Aiden and I just stopped by to say hi, see if anyone's here with us. If you're here with us, can you let us know? Can you repeat that?
Heard a few EVPs that we feel are pretty conclusive.
Yeah, I think I heard you talking to us, but I couldn't quite make it out. Do you mind repeating it one more time? So did we hear you correct? Was that 14? Have you been here since 1914?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
This one.
Yeah.
Is that right for 1914?
But during the whole process, I felt like someone was taking their thumb and like poking it right here the whole time we were trying to talk to them. So it was interesting.
Very interesting. the responses that we got and a couple that we couldn't understand. Official Ghouls was this group of men who they were in charge of removing or exhuming the bodies from the original cemetery and moving them to the one where it's at. Oh, yeah. Their name, the Official Ghouls. You know, they're dealing with, you know, obviously, you know, people, bodies, and stuff like that. And, you know, they moved them at night so no one would see them and watch them, or perhaps try to, you know, do any damage to the bodies. You know, they took care of them while they were transporting them.
Well, basically, Goldfield was one of the biggest cities with 20,000 people at the time in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and that's where the big gold rush boom came into Nevada.
You know, I was always sort of a geek when it came to history stuff. So yeah, going to a ghost town, that was cool. Goldfield is the county seat of Esmeralda County. So it's still an active community. The county courthouse is there. Don't speed through Goldfield. You will get a ticket. You know, there are still businesses there.
Goldfield Hotel was built in 1908. It replaced the former Nevada Hotel, which was burnt down in one of the fires.
Very, I guess, broken.
And this was basically the place you wanted to be. It was, at the time it was built, had all the upgrades, the luxuries that you would expect of a hotel of the time.
During the grand opening, it's said that they actually flooded the lobby stairs with champagne during the grand opening.
Filled with prostitutes,
drunkards, and gamblers. Part of the colorful history of the American West.
To be luxury, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
You know, it was not like having to go out and be a prospector and tromp across the desert and all of this. This was a metropolitan area.
Last time I was here, I was just walking around the street, and I know up in that far right hand, or looking at the building, the far left hand top corner room, there was someone watching and pacing back and forth in that room. You could see them. Strange noises, objects being moved. Room 109, a lot of times technology stopped working, and that's rumored to be the room where Elizabeth was captured, I guess, by George Wingfield. Rumor is, or legend is, that she was a prostitute that became pregnant with his child, and when she was starting to show, he chained her up to a radiator in room 109, and that's where she stayed until, there's two stories. One, she died of childbirth. The other one was he murdered her, and then the baby was thrown down a mine shaft. And so when people enter that room, they feel the presence of Elizabeth there, as well as technology stops working, and just a real heavy presence in that one room. Are we alone, or how many people are with us?
Something about bodies.
Sounded like a different voice, too. Is there more than one person here with us?
Everyone's here? There's so much story behind those buildings, and that's what I love to do, is try to find what those stories are.
Empty.
Empty.
Quieter, quieter, brave, courageous, and bold.
Virgil and Wyatt Earp were actually visitors here. And Virgil actually moved here. He was actually deputized as a deputy sheriff of Goldfield, January 1905, but later died that year in October of pneumonia. And his brother Wyatt was known to visit quite often. To know that he was here in this town as a deputy sheriff is pretty interesting.
I love this town. There's so much energy, so many things to do if you like history.
Yeah, this is an old cowboy outfit, an Indian sort of outfit.
The John S. Cook building, legend has it, an employee named Claudie was thrown down the third floor stairwell. They were doing some sketchy banking business, and she was threatening to turn them in. They've ruled her tumble down the stairs as murder, is the word. Activity when I was here last time on that top corner room. You could see it from the street.
Goldfield is also one that had a major flood.
The whole area was flooded for 4 days. I mean, you can just envision the whole town almost underwater.
You wouldn't think of floods in that area, but they did. Wiped out most of the town. It's the desert, yes, but you still have rainfall at times. And the thing about the desert is when you have a desert rainfall, it's normally all in one place, all at once. And it doesn't soak in. It runs off. And that's what happened there. It ran off and took out a good chunk of the town.
Good luck. I did it 15 years ago. I'm a Phoenix paranormal investigator myself. I've been in paranormal investigating since I was about 8 years old. I got interested in it with my grandmother's house being haunted. I always look for the graveyards and the old houses to investigate. In fact, I got over at the Mist Pod last night, I got 2 figures on the SLS camera in the 3rd floor. So the Mist Pods definitely have some activity. And it didn't take long. Hey Hill, when we were doing the Mist Pod last night, how long did it take for those figures to show up in the SLS? Not even 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
15 years ago, I had activity here. I wish I had the SLS at that time. We got some EVPs and just, felt things.
What kind of feelings did you have?
And of course, that's personal. So,
And since you've been inside,
the biggest thing that we captured were EVPs. EVPs on electronic voice recording. I really enjoy is I loved getting that static cold feeling.
Yes.
I love that feeling, man.
That's the thrill that we look for while we're still trying to get the evidence and the research that we want to do.
You know, I tell you, I brought her to Tombstone and I brought her to some old places. She thought they were kind of cool, you know? So she a little sensitive. It was weird because I got on my SLS, we got a figure on a couch. And as it appeared, she actually walked up and started sniffing the area of where it was. It's really wild. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very emotional town. Lot of energy, just lingering.
Time for a dry martini.
Dolls creep me out.
Time for a dry martini.
A Mad Max car.
But outside of my Raggedy Ann and Andy doll that I have, dolls just give me the creeps. There's a lot of paranormal stories attached to them, and the theory behind it is that dolls have everything you would as a human, so when you pass on, possessing a doll gives you everything you had while you were in a physical form. So that's why they end up, a lot get possessed that way.
Desert sun is mean with no gin in your canteen when you're dying for a dry martini.
Just need to add a skull and crossbones and you're all set.
Yep.
This is a man on his way to work beneath the surface of the ocean. Only a few short years ago, this would have been an imaginary scene in a science fiction movie. Today, it's reality.
So the reason we're giving you the history of the museum is because we want to show you how long it's been here, the age of some of the equipment, and how we believe that there could be, initially when we first came here, there could be paranormal activity here. Okay. Let me introduce Kenny.
Man in the Sea started out as an institute of diving. Started in 1976. And then they made this Man in the Sea Museum in 1982.
The museum started mostly from the Sea Lab program. They formed the Institute of Diving. It was a non-profit organization.
But at the 28-foot mark, almost home, trouble, bad trouble.
Kick off, we got the report on your possible hit.
The Sea Lab program was started here in 1964 at the base. We got a lot of different projects there. Diving is one of their core missions, and mine countermeasure.
Most of the divers and everything that work with Sea Lab, some of their stuff are actually in this museum. And a lot of people don't realize all the stuff that's actually in here that is history.
Amphibious warfare, but I think they support the whole Navy.
Navy divers use this shelter as a home for 11 days.
It's real spooky out here at night when it gets this time of year, when it starts getting dark early. And you're leaving the museum, it's some strange things happen. You know, you think you see things and hear things because it's dark in here. You got to turn off the lights here and walk to the door, which is about 30 feet. You're walking, and, kind of make your way through the dark.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple reasons why we do it at night. Because everything's more quiet, everything's more calmer. There's not a lot of people running around, this, that, and the other. So I'm standing there, Susan's there, and I hear something walking. I figured it was the other investigator. Dee, she's our photographer.
Not everything that is seemingly unexplainable is paranormal.
8:20 in the evening. So I turn around, there's this thing standing about this tall, black as night. Just standing there, about 15 feet away from me, and I said, that's it. Yeah, it's a strange noise. And then nobody else saw it, no one saw it.
None.
So we stopped and, let everybody clean the bridges out. Is that you guys?
I heard a knock, what she was talking about.
Like a footstep?
I heard a knock.
What do you think it is?
That's right.
There's nothing here.
No, I wasn't too concerned about it. Just knew it wasn't supposed to be there.
It's supposed to be there. That's what we were talking about in there, because I didn't understand why this place would be haunted, but then I realized there's really old stuff in here that the ghosts or spirits are attached to.
It seems like in that back corner is where one of the spirits that's here likes to stay. So.
How many do you think there are?
Three.
Three.
I believe there's three.
One that is directly tied to some of the artifacts here in the museum.
Yeah.
The other two were still up in the air.
One we believe to be a female.
I was gonna say, what sex are they? Do you think?
Two are male, and then there's a female, but we can't seem to get
much out of her other than she answered this the easy questions.
I heard that. Yeah.
And when she does talk, she'll talk over somebody's voice. So it can't be, you can hear her, but you really can't understand what she's saying. Go back to you.
You don't let ghosts move on or go through the light like some of the people do, like the mediums and.
What you see on TV is not like what we do. By me going and saying, you're not welcome here, you need to go away, I banish you, whatever, I don't see how that works because of the free will. If they want to go, they're going to go.
But some people believe that they're trapped souls that are
correct. Some
that
believe
died tragically, and yeah.
Right.
They get stuck.
The individual that has some stuff here that used to be his. I think he's here. He was really involved with this museum, for one. And then you bring his stuff here. I mean, he loved this place. He was part of it originally, was he not? So maybe this is where he felt most happiest.
Right.
Let's say it could be thinking maybe your grandmother coming to visit you. It very well could be, because maybe there's something that she's got to get to you, or tell you something, or just let you know, hey, I'm here, I'm watching over you. And once you acknowledge it, maybe I'm done. But when people talk about shadow people, I saw it out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah,
I saw this.
Nice.
Well, I'm not the expert. I mean, it's possible. I mean.
Well, because some people are skeptics and some people believe. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
There's even an app that you can get for your phone to put ghostly faces in your pictures and.
So, do you believe it's haunted or not?
Well.
Whatever.
Also in training is a porpoise named Tuffy. Some of the specimens had a chance to observe right back through the porthole.
We were talking on the spirit box, and we knew that they had a dolphin.
The Navy has used trained porpoises to deliver messages and run errands for divers working underwater.
Once they done Sea Lab 2, they started working they had a dolphin that actually was named Tuffy.
Tuffy, the porpoise, who is specially trained for his job.
I had no idea what the name was. Nobody knew what the name was. Kenny knew what the name was. Jeff knew what the name was.
Tuffy. They used a dolphin to take supplies from the top.
Any trips between Sea Lab and the surface.
To excavate and bring stuff to them.
Of course, Tuffy was well paid in fish.
I know if you've watched Ghost Hunters, taps, and so forth, this piece of equipment is called the SB7 Spirit Box. What it does is it randomly scans AM and FM channels. Theoretically, you ask it a question, it can answer you through this.
We were talking on the spirit box, and we knew that they had a dolphin. Okay, so go ahead.
What was the name of the dolphin?
And what was it?
Tuffy. There's Tuffy.
Yeah, it's really quick.
Yeah.
And I thought and then these two guys are like, what? I'm like, cool.
If I know and I hear something, because I know the information, I may make it say that in my mind.
Right.
But with these guys not knowing.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that you see in the Maynard Museum, a lot of stuff you don't realize how old it is, but diving has actually been around since the 1500s.
We do use a lot of the same equipment as they do on TV. Okay, a lot of the newer teams that are coming out now, they have all this high-tech gear. We've been using the same gear for years.
Works fine for what we do.
And it happens to be one of the easiest meters to cause to go off. It's going to 100.
When you go into a place, there's two things that you can always do, even if you have none of this. You have your eyes where you can see, very important, and almost more important than that is your ears.
Hear it? Can you hear it?
When we first came here to the museum, we were all sitting in here and we had asked whomever to give us some type of sign that they were here. And we heard knocking. We asked again, they do it again. So we're all changing our diapers because of this sound. So we get up and say, well, we got to figure it out. Let's see if we can figure out what it was. So we got up, we all started looking around, and come to find out that there's a gutter on the outside of the building that's loose, and the wind was blowing, and it was just, every time we'd ask, it just happened to So we chalked that.
It's phenomenal of how diving was even way back then, and a lot of people don't realize all the stuff that's actually in here.
We need to really concentrate. See Kenny over there by the TV. He's sitting over here with her flashlight on. What I want you to do is try your hardest to give one of us your name.
I heard that. Yeah.
We don't ever talk like that.
It sounded like a female.
Yeah. Since we've been doing this, we've never gotten anything that would even talk to us like that before. But this particular night, there it is.
I heard that.
Okay.
Then, Sea-Lab 3, they started in 1965.
As they descend slowly toward the habitat, the aquanauts report on their progress.
Well, they went from 200 feet down to 600 feet. There was some issues with Sea-Lab 3 when it went down. And they took all the divers and took them down, and they had leaks.
They had leaks with the penetrations going in where some electrical cables come in, the welds didn't hold, and they leaked out into the water, into the ocean.
Water has seeped back under the diving station skirt, and the hatch won't budge. Cold and frustrated, Barth swims for a crowbar positioned nearby.
It was Bob Barth and Barry Cannon went down and tried to open up the hatch to get inside, but they never did get inside.
There was a man, his equipment is actually on the other side in a picture of him. His name was Barry Cannon. And his original setup Mark V suit is actually there.
Returning, he sees his partner Barry Cannon in trouble on the ocean floor.
Well, there was an issue with carbon dioxide poisoning.
Because the pressure was too low inside.
Clasping Barry, he heads for the capsule and help.
And the hatch wouldn't come open.
But he and his teammates' heroic efforts were to prove futile. Barry Cannon was pronounced dead on arrival at the deck decompression chamber.
And he ended up dying while trying to fix Sea-Lab 3. Once that happened, Sea-Lab 3 was pretty much called a no-go. They scrapped it.
But I'm curious in why, say that dive helmet over there, why something could be attached to that dive helmet. That's why I'm doing this. Can you say Sea-Lab?
flying overhead. I ain't afraid of a six-gun pointed at my head. But there's that wildcat in the city who's roped me in for sure. For the kind of spell she's got on me, they just ain't found a cure. I ain't afraid to bust a bronco down at the old corral. I ain't afraid to roll my sleeves up and fight to help a pal. I ain't afraid of any ghost town or the tales I've heard. I ain't afraid of a stampede when I'm riding herd. But there's that wildcat in the city, and when she holds me tight, it's just like dropping a match on a keg of dynamite. I ain't afraid to round up rustlers running from the law. I ain't afraid of a stranger beating me to the draw. But there's that wildcat in the city, she's out to stake her claim. She lassoed my heart, now she's out to get my name. I ain't afraid of being lonely, alone I like to be. But it's too late, because that wildcat has put her